She left me for my cousin, then tried to return as a bargaining chip for a $250,000 loan. Hi, I'm Daniel, 31, and the day my girlfriend left me for my rich cousin wasn't the worst part. That came a week later, when my own family humiliated me at Sunday lunch like I was the villain in their fairy tale. It wasn't a scream that ended my life as I knew it. No dramatic breakup music, no shattered dishes, no teary confrontation in the rain like in those old rom-coms Adriana used to make me watch. Just one sentence, a whisper, cold as winter steel. I don't love you anymore. I think I deserve something better. We were in my apartment, a place I had painted ivory 2 weeks ago, thinking she'd like it. A place I paid for with my $2,500 a month job at a logistics firm, working late nights and sacrificing weekends so we could have something together. She stood across from me, arms crossed, face unreadable. 4 years we'd been building something. 4 years. I thought we were partners. Something better? I asked, the words catching in my throat like barbed wire. Then the door opened. He didn't knock. He didn't even hesitate. He used his key. Diego, my cousin, 2 years older, born into money. The kind of guy who gets sports cars for birthdays and gap years in Europe when he's bored. The golden boy of my Aunt Patricia and Uncle Manuel. He walked in with his smug little leather jacket swagger, smiled, and said, "You told him, babe." That was the first moment I realized my life wasn't falling apart, it had already fallen. Adriana walked over to him like it was the most natural thing in the world, and he wrapped his arm around her like I was a discarded sock. "You're joking," I muttered, but Diego let out a soft chuckle. "It's not a joke, cousin. It's evolution." What hurt wasn't just the betrayal, it was how casual they were about it. As if I'd been a placeholder until something shinier came along. As if hard work, loyalty, and love were just bad branding. "I paid off your $4,000 credit card debt last month," I said to Adriana, desperate for anything to wake her up. She tilted her head. "Don't take it personally, Daniel. You let routine kill the magic." Diego reminded me what it feels like to be alive. They walked out, leaving the door open behind them, like an open wound, but that wasn't the worst part. No. The worst part came a week later at Sunday family lunch. The moment I thought I'd be surrounded by support, and found out I'd already been voted off the island. I didn't want to go to that Sunday lunch. The wound was still fresh, raw, but my mom called, voice trembling. "You have to come, Daniel. We're family." So I went hoping, stupidly, for comfort. For someone, anyone, to say what they did to you was wrong. I should have known better. I walked into my grandparents' old house, the place where birthdays and holidays lived in my childhood memory. I stepped into the dining room and froze. They were there, Diego and Adriana, sitting side by side like prom royalty, holding hands and laughing like they hadn't just torched 4 years of my life. Diego raised his glass in a mock toast when he saw me. Adriana gave me a polite smile, like we were colleagues who'd once grabbed lunch, not lovers who once shared a life. "Daniel, sit down," my father said, gesturing to the chair furthest from them. I sat, but my heart didn't. "What are they doing here?" I asked, my voice low but sharp. My Aunt Patricia barely looked up from her designer plate. "Please don't make a scene. They're in love. These things happen. She was my girlfriend. He's my cousin. And now they're happy," my Uncle Manuel said, his voice thunderous. "Real men seize opportunity." I turned to my parents, the two people I thought would always have my back. My mother stared at her soup like it was whispering a better answer. My dad just sighed. "Maybe you should reflect, son. Adriana says you were neglecting her. She said you never took her anywhere nice." My hands clenched under the table. I was working 12-hour days so we could afford a wedding, so we could pay off her debt. Adriana burst into tears. "You see," Diego said, wrapping an arm around her, always throwing money in her face. "That's not love, that's control." That's when my grandfather, the old-school patriarch, chimed in. "Enough. Daniel, if you can't be happy for your cousin, maybe you don't belong at this table." And just like that I saw it. I wasn't family anymore. Not because I'd changed, but because I'd failed to impress them. Diego was flashy, loud, expensive. I was effort. And in their world, effort without diamonds meant nothing. So I stood up, calm, quiet, a man already packing his emotional bags, You're right, I said. I don't belong here. I looked at each of them, my spineless parents, my smug cousin, the woman who'd cashed my love and returned it counterfeit, and when it all comes crashing down, don't come looking for me. Diego laughed. You're being dramatic. We're flying to Paris next week. I walked out. No slamming doors. No shouting. But inside me, something slammed shut forever. The silence of my apartment hit different after that lunch. It wasn't just the absence of Adriana's voice, it was the weight of realizing that no one at that table had my back. Not even my own parents. I spiraled. For a few weeks, I barely ate, drank too much, slept too little, scrolled through photos of Adriana and Diego gallivanting across Europe, Paris, Rome, some beach in Greece where he posted a shirtless selfie with the caption, "Manifesting the life you deserve." Every post was a punch in the gut, but it wasn't jealousy. Not really. It was rage. Not at Diego, not even at Adriana, but at myself. For letting them define my worth. For trying to earn love like it was a performance review. One night, I stared at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the man looking back. Pale, slumped, pathetic. That's when I made a decision. I didn't want revenge. I wanted resurrection. I quit my job the next day. I sold my used car, canceled the lease, liquidated what little savings I had, even sold the engagement ring I never got the chance to give her. I bought a one-way ticket across the country to a city where no one knew my name. No family, no exes, no shadows. I moved into a tiny apartment with two strangers and took the only job I could find. Entry-level analyst at a fintech startup. It paid less, but it had one thing my old life never did, possibility. And I got to work. I woke up at a.m. every day, hit the gym, trained like a soldier. No fancy diets, no Instagram flexes, just discipline. I stopped drinking, started reading, took night classes, studied coding, logistics, operations. I watched lectures on YouTube while eating ramen. I read The Lean Startup on the train and Harvard Business Review on my lunch break. While Diego was playing rich, I was becoming valuable. In 2 years, I was promoted. In 3, I was recruited by a competitor. In 4, I bought a duplex and flipped it myself on weekends. Plumbing, drywall, the works. And in 5, I opened my own boutique consulting firm. It took everything I had, but the clients came. One by one, they saw what I'd built. My first $100,000 contract came from a startup that couldn't believe I was under 35. The second came from a VC firm that wanted me to overhaul their logistics division, and the money started to pour in. Not family money, not borrowed, not gifted, mine, earned. But here's the wild part: somewhere along the way, stop thinking about them. Diego, Adriana, my so-called family, they became background noise. Faded ghosts in a city I no longer lived in, until, of course, my mom called. 6 years later, your grandfather's 50th anniversary is this Saturday. Please come. I didn't want to, but part of me needed to. Not for them. For me. To show them what they threw away. To show them what I became when they left me for dead. I didn't return in silence. I flew first class, landed in a tailored navy suit, crisp white shirt, handmade leather shoes. I didn't rent a sports car to obvious. I rented a sleek, armored German sedan. Not flashy, just powerful. The kind of car that doesn't scream money, but whispers influence. The country club loomed as I pulled in. Same stucco walls, same pretense of elegance. But this time, the valet did a double take when I stepped out. I tipped him $50 without blinking. Inside, the music was soft jazz. Tablecloths white as untouched snow. Chandeliers glittered above conversations that smelled like perfume, wine, and generational denial. And then, silence. It rippled like a cold wind when people noticed me. Forks paused mid-air. Glasses hovered near lips. I saw my parents, my uncles, my cousins, and then I saw them, Diego and Adriana. They were near the bar, and I swear time paused. Diego had balloon, red-faced, bloated, like success had run out and left him marinating in whiskey. The suit was tight in the worst places, stained at the lapel, and the sparkle he used to walk in with had dulled into something desperate. Adriana? Tired, dull-eyed, her once glamorous glow replaced with carefully hidden exhaustion. She wore a dress at least 3 seasons old. Her heels looked borrowed, her smile forced. I didn't stop walking. My mother saw me first and gasped like a ghost had materialized. She rushed up, hugged me tight. "Daniel, you came." Her eyes were wet. But I wasn't here for tears. I hugged my grandparents respectfully. My grandfather looked me up and down, nodded once. The kind of nod he used to give Diego. A silent "you're someone now." And then came Uncle Manuel. He smiled like a politician who just realized the polls had turned. "The prodigal son returns," he boomed, rubbing his hands together. "We've heard great things. They say you own your own company?" "That's right," I said, cool and calm. "Doing quite well." Behind him, Diego and Adriana approached like the tide, inevitable and pathetic. Diego tried to smirk. "Nice suit, cousin. Rented?" I met his eyes and gave a calm nod. "No, and neither is the car outside." "How's business?" His face twitched. "You know, market's rough. But we survive." Adriana just stared. Her eyes drifted down. Watch, shoes, confidence. And I saw it. Regret. Pure, distilled. Eyes wide open regret. I smiled gently. "Good to see you both." Then I turned to greet a distant cousin like they didn't exist. From that moment on, I was the center of gravity. Old relatives who'd once ignored me now asked for business cards. Cousins pulled me aside asking for investment tips. My father hovered awkwardly, trying to laugh at my jokes, like he'd always been proud. But beneath the surface tension, Uncle Manuel kept glancing at me. Aunt Patricia whispered to my mother with that familiar look. The one that said we need something. Diego drank more. Adriana vanished to the bathroom for 20 minutes. Then, after dinner, father touched my shoulder. "Daniel, could we talk?" In Grandpa's study? The trap was set. And I walked in willingly, because I already knew. They didn't call me back out of love. They called me because the house of cards was collapsing, and I had become the bank. The study door closed behind me with a hush, sealing me in with the people who once watched me drown. My father, my mother, Uncle Manuel, and Patricia and Diego, sulking on the sofa like a dog that knew it was about to be put outside. I didn't sit. "Daniel," Uncle Manuel began, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Let's not pretend there weren't tensions in the past." "Tensions?" I echoed. "That what we're calling it now." He swallowed. "The family business has hit a temporary setback." There it was. How temporary? I asked. He exhaled slowly, shoulders slumping. "We need a bridge loan. Just until a government contract closes." 1 month. "How much?" 250,000. It took everything in me not to laugh. But I didn't hide the smirk. My mother spoke next, voice trembling. "Your uncle could lose the company, Daniel. The house is collateral. Your grandparents' house. So, now, they cared about my grandparents' home the same. Relatives, who told me to stop being dramatic. When Diego stole my girlfriend and my dignity in one afternoon." "Why not ask Diego?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Aunt Patricia let out a wounded gasp. "He was scammed. He invested in an import venture that failed." Our poor boy. I glanced at Diego, his stare fixed on the carpet, jaw clenched. "So you're bankrupt," I summarized. "And you want me to fix it?" Silence. Heavy. Expectant. But then unbelievably Aunt Patricia raised her chin. "And there is another matter," he said softly. "Someone else who wants to speak to you." The door opened. Adriana stepped inside. Her eyes were red. Her makeup cracked at the edges. She hugged her arms around herself like she was cold. "Daniel," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I blinked once. Slowly. "For what?" "For everything," she said, tears pooling. "I was stupid. Immature. Diego isn't who I thought he was. He's changed. Angry. Controlling. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake." She took a shaky step toward me. "If you help us, if you help the family, Diego can start over somewhere else. And maybe you and I could talk. Reconnect. I never stopped thinking about you." Behind her, Diego didn't protest. He just sat there, hollow-eyed, letting his wife offer herself like a bargaining chip. My father even smiled faintly, as if it made perfect sense. "As if this was a gift for me." "Daniel," my mother said gently. "You always loved her, and she realizes now what she lost." It was surreal, like watching a Greek tragedy performed by delusional amateurs. They truly believed my dignity had a price tag. I stepped closer to Adriana. She reached for my hand. I let her fingers hover there, trembling in the air. Then I said it. No. One word. Clean. Sharp. Surgical. It sliced through the room like a hidden blade. Adriana froze. Diego's head snapped up. My aunt staggered back as if struck. My parents stared at me like I'd spoken in tongues. No? Uncle Manuel croaked. What do you mean no? I let the silence stretch, tasting the moment, branding it into their memory. I said, I'm not saving your company. I'm not giving you a cent. And I am definitely not accepting Adriana as some sort of consolation prize because your golden child crashed and burned. Adriana's face crumpled. Daniel, please. I shook my head. Calm, detached, free. You didn't love me, said softly. You loved the version of me you thought I might become one day. And now that I actually became him, you want back in. I stepped past her to the door. I'm not your future, added. I was just your safety net. And I've been cut loose. They called after me, voices layering in panic, anger, desperation. But I didn't turn around. I left the study, and for the first time in years, they were the ones left behind. I didn't storm out. I didn't slam the door. I just walked through the party hall, past the chandeliers and champagne flutes, past second cousins who suddenly remembered my name. I stepped out into the cool night air, buttoned my jacket, and waited as the valet brought my car. I tipped him again because I could, and drove off without a glance in the rearview mirror. I thought I'd feel sad. I didn't. I felt weightless, like I'd finally dropped a backpack full of bricks I didn't even know I'd been carrying since I was a kid. Bricks named approval, validation, family, loyalty. They didn't love me. Not really. They tolerated me when I stayed in my lane. The obedient cousin, the struggling son, the project Adriana could mold. But now that I had power, they wanted access, and I finally had the strength to lock the door. For weeks after the anniversary, my phone blew up. My parents tried guilt. Aunt Patricia tried tears. Diego unbelievably sent me a rambling voice note about how bros shouldn't let women come between them. Even Adriana messaged me. Can we at least talk? I miss what we had. I blocked them all except my grandparents. I couldn't punish them for the rest. So I sent $20,000 anonymously to help them move into a private care facility before the bank took their house. My only condition was that none of it touched Diego's debt or Adriana's shopping habits. I made sure of it. After that, silence. The door didn't just close. It disappeared. 3 years passed. I sold my company for an 8-figure sum. No press release. No media splash. Just a quiet wire transfer that changed everything. And nothing. I bought a modern home on the West Coast. Oceanfront. Clean lines. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Peaceful. I invested in startups. Mentored hungry kids who reminded me of myself at 25. Broke but dangerous. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, until one business trip brought me through my hometown again. I was grabbing coffee before a meeting, just a fast food chain. Nothing special. I was standing in line, checking my phone, when I heard a familiar voice say, "Next, please." I looked up. It was Adriana. She stood behind the counter in a wrinkled uniform, hair tied back under a visor, face stripped of makeup. Her hands fidgeted nervously near the register. There was a cheap name tag on her chest, and a weariness in her eyes I barely recognized. We locked eyes. For 1 second. One long, aching second. Neither of us said a word, and I swear I saw it all hit her at once. The memories, the regret, the disbelief. Her mouth parted slightly. I thought maybe she'd cry, but she didn't. She straightened. Barely. Blinked fast. "What can I get you?" she asked, voice flat. Professional. I stepped forward slowly. "A medium coffee," I said. She nodded. $2. I pulled out my card, but then paused, reached into my wallet and slid a 20 across the counter instead. "Keep the change," I said. My tone wasn't cruel, just final. Her hand trembled as she took the bill. I gave her a small smile. Not pity, not pride, just closure. Then I turned and walked away. An dramatic send-off. No line about karma. I didn't need it. The quiet was louder than anything I could have said. Later, sitting in my rental car, coffee in hand, I stared out the window and let the moment settle. I didn't feel superior. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt free. She had become a footnote, not a villain, not a tragedy, just a reminder. A reminder that when someone shows you their true face, believe them. And when they try to return out of love, but out of need, you owe them nothing but silence. Now, I sit on the terrace of my home, a breeze off the Pacific sliding through the glass railing, the sky painted in fire, oranges, purples, soft fading gold. Clarissa is inside, humming to herself while prepping dinner. She's an architect, bright, fiercely independent, kind in a way that doesn't need to be loud to be real. She doesn't need me, which is exactly why being needed by her feels like love, not obligation. We're expecting our first child this winter. She's already picked out baby names and swears she's not nesting, but I've seen the Amazon card. I tease her about it. She teases me back, and it's real. No silent calculations. No whispered, "You're not enough." Just two people who fought hard to be who they are, and met each other at the right time. As for the rest, I hear whispers sometimes. Through old friends, through LinkedIn, through stray relatives still playing neutral. Grandfather passed quietly in his sleep. I sent flowers. No card. The house I once walked out of forever? Gone. Sold to cover debts. Uncle Manuel and Aunt Patricia now rent a small 2-bedroom in a run-down suburb. He works part-time at an insurance office. The same man who once told me I wasn't a real man, without a Rolex, now cold calls strangers for commission. My parents? Still circling them like satellites. Bitter, dependent, blaming me for their misery instead of seeing the truth. That they traded integrity for proximity to money. And when the money ran dry, they stayed anyway. Out of fear. Diego? Last I heard, he was working at a mechanic shop. The kind of place where your name is stitched on your shirt, and your boss doesn't care about last names or past glories, only that you show up on time. He spent a few months in jail for petty fraud, and rumor has it he lives alone in a studio apartment above the garage. And no more Paris. No more whiskey-soaked posts about manifesting success. Just oil stains and silence. And Adriana. I don't know where she is now. I don't check. That moment at the fast food counter was our ending. The quiet one. The honest one. She finally stood on her own 2 feet. For the first time, maybe. And maybe that's what she needed all along. Not a man with money. Just a moment. Without a lifeline. I sip my wine. Clarissa steps onto the terrace, barefoot, radiant in the glow of the setting sun. Her hand rests on her small belly. "What are you thinking about?" she asks, kissing my forehead. "Nothing important," I say, reaching for her hand. "Just how good it is to be here, far from the noise." And it's true. The past is a foreign country. I have no desire to visit again. Paid the price of loyalty to myself. And it was the best investment I've ever made.